Thank you for having us here, and thank you everyone for coming here on a Saturday morning. I know it's Saturday, I know it's morning, but hopefully we have a fun session and we get to interact and talk much after the session as well. Um, I was kind of mentioning, I usually like to move around when I talk, but I'll stay here so that my audio is clear. Um, all right, is this okay? So, like Amishi said, we are Mooshir and Parul. We've been together for a very long time, almost 20 years now. We're partners in life and work. We met during college and have been together ever since. And the idea of Rayden started well in our college times, and it's morphed over the years to doing various different things. But we enjoy everything creative, and design is kind of at the heart of all of it, right? So when Amishi kind of reached out to us for Creative Mornings, we were very excited to be able to talk about things. But then the topic for this month was particularly interesting, which is ritual, because I think rituals in our lives is what makes life worth living, right? And it's very different from a habit, where a habit is like brushing in the morning, where you get up and you have to do certain things and you do it, and that's your daily routine. But rituals are stuff that you choose to do. Like, you don't necessarily have to do, but you put a conscious effort to choose to do something that gives you an experience that enriches your life. It gives you a way to kind of keep yourself grounded, or have a touch base that gives you a certain kind of joy. The reason for this image is because we have a little ritual with our son. He's growing up now, but every time we go to the beach, we make sure we take a video of him jumping as high as he can in slow motion, right? And so, like, over the years now, we have a lot of videos of him jumping on the beach, and that's our little ritual. And I think it's a random thing, but it gives us that point of connect, and, like, an event that we look forward to every time that happens. uh, and I think it's fair to say everybody has rituals that gives them experiences. And I think that the thing that translates from rituals for us is we've always focused on experiences that we can cater to, or that we can create. So sorry, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna mess up a lot of the things that I thought I was gonna talk about, and Parallel will be like, you're not on cue, but that is how it is. Today's talk is going to be on is divided into two different parts. The first part, I'm going to talk about one of our early works that we did way back in 2012, 2013, and the second part is going to focus on a more recent project. For the first part, this is an image from our balcony back in Pune. It's our little, abode of peace and quiet within the urban setting that we live in, and it's our place of happiness, where we escape to, whenever possible. So within that setup, we also have a ritual where normally every Saturday or Sunday afternoon, Parul is a big tea drinker. I'm more of a coffee person, but one of the things I've realized when you learn how to make a good drink that your spouse likes, you're kind of married to it for the rest of your life, because you will have to do it for the rest of your life, right? But I started doing that when we were in college because I wanted to be with her, and now it stuck with me. But you know. So we have this thing where every Saturday or Sunday we escape to our balcony. It leaves the world behind, gives us a time to focus, spend a little time from our daily schedule and just talk about life in general, right? And we really enjoy it. We really look forward to it. So during one of these experiences, we realized that there are certain birds that also come to our balcony every now and then, and as much as it might annoy us, they also make nests in our balconies from time to time. And so we kind of saw ourselves looking at this one robin bird which had made a nest, and it had done so with whatever was available in an urban setting, which is not just leaves and branches but also wires and other things. And it was so proudly sitting in the nest, catering to its young ones, right? And that kind of make us realize that it's something to be admired, that even in a metropolis like Mumbai or Pune, everybody creates their own little abode, their own little space that they enjoy and that they speak of, right? And so that's the experience that led us to focus on and create our first range of products, which we call as urban tweeters. It's a I'm sure I forgot something in between, but so it's a set of glasses and pitcher that are inspired from these birds that are very confident living in their ecosystem and um, kind of enjoy being there, right? So it's this series is very dear to us. It's very close to us because it was the first one that we worked on, and it's evolved over time as well. But it still exists in its form and shape, and we like talking about it and using it as well. Over time, with the urban tweeters, we added a few more things. So the pictures and the glasses were joined by oil lamps, which were inspired from trees for the shape and kind of complemented the family. Um, I'm sure I missed a bunch of things, but oh yeah. So this happens. When she's talking, I'll prod her as well. But one of the things that we've always focused on in as part of our work is to kind of take away from the form as much as possible, and abstract the final outcome to as bare minimum as possible, right? So if you look at these shapes as well, especially with the glasses in the picture, if you were to just take out the beak, it wouldn't be a bird anymore. If you were to just take out the tail, it wouldn't be a bird anymore. So, and that's the part of the process that we really enjoy, to kind of break down an inspiration and convert it into the most simplest abstract form that it can be, and still convey the essence of the thought or the experience. And over the years, we've worked on various different objects and products using the same philosophy of experiencing something, converting it into a object, and we hope that eventually these objects become part of other people's experiences and their rituals as well. So while we've focused on doing a lot of objects for ourselves and our brand over the years, every once in a while there is an opportunity that comes around where we get a chance to collaborate with other people for a project as well. And this happened, quite 5 years back, 2019, where we got a chance to work with Alex and Malieka, who run Americano restaurant here in South Bombay. And it was uh, it was very difficult to kind of say no to them, because they were equally as involved in the project as we would have wanted them to be. And so we kind of worked for the first restaurant. We designed a bunch of serveware for their entire restaurant. So it involved designing 27 different objects that cater to everything that needs to be served in the restaurant. So while this was 5 years ago, more recently, they've launched a new restaurant called Otra, which is their second part and our second time working with them. And so we'll talk a little bit more about the process that we went through for that and the inspiration for it as well. And Parul will do that.
I'm going to continue where Mooshir left off, but would love to speak about our journey in creating objects for Otra, and it's been a very interesting one. I do the ticker, yeah? So this particular restaurant caters to Latin American food. Now, what happens is when you're given a blank canvas and you're asked to create something, it's the most difficult part to begin. So what we usually do is, and I know a lot of creators do, is start constraining themselves with certain questions that you ask and get answers for. And this is where we began just exploring different visuals. I've never been to Latin America. That makes the life even more difficult, right? So we start creating a collage of visuals that represent Latin America. We pick out patterns. Yeah, we looking at, in this particular project, we're looking at patterns that we convert into some abstract patterns at this point. We look at motives, we convert them into some abstract motives at this point. We look at different sculptures, objects of use, basket weaving, sometimes even textiles, and we're trying to understand how we can pull all of this together. So now my canvas is a little more confined. I know certain elements that I can use in creation of these objects. So we come to the color palette. roughly identified as to what it will lead to, what the products will lead to. We're looking at museum pieces, certain artifacts. This is the interesting bit. These are inspiration or just um, extraction of all that we have seen so far into some visual. We still don't know what our objects will be like, right? So the primary focus here, or the primary form that we thought would do well in our Latin American restaurant was the bulbous form. So something which is round, then we have something which is plump and voluptuous. It has horizontal bands somewhere. It'll have, and we'll see how we use them in our products and whether or not we use them. But we are just collecting these ideas, and we're starting to constrain ourselves more and more towards the final object that we would come up with. That's the first sketch. With all that we've seen so far, we create our first sketch. Our products probably move further and further away from it, but we try and make sure that the essence of the first sketch remains in the objects that we finally create. And in a restaurant project, when you're looking at a setting, these are the first three objects, and they have a certain variation of height and width. And so we start with a glass, which is taller, a bowl, which has a little volume, and a plate, which is like quite 2D. Right? So these are three objects that we start with. Overall, the range that we developed for them was what, 17, 18 objects. But these three, once we are able to understand the proportions of these three, that's where we then start to define other objects. Right? Now, there are some other things to consider, which is the functionality. What does fall on functionality is the stackability, because it's a restaurant. Then there is cleanability, there's servability, volumes, materials, how am I going to make them, how much is it going to cost. After all of this has been considered, we draw and we make. So these are some initial renders of the products, and now the tough part of converting these ideas of renders into the final product starts. Right? So as I said, the first three, and then it becomes a slightly easier task when the first object is made. Then you're working just with the proportion and the scale of the objects to create other objects, right? So these are three plates, three stackability, how do those things function? Then you're creating a series of bowls. But when you've done these, there are some objects that are different, and then you have to look for inspiration at other places, like at cactuses. And that's how we came up with the votives for the table setting that they have. Yeah? Or the buntings in Mexico. And that's how we came up with the bill holder. These are accessories that go with the serveware that is primarily used. So yeah, and you should be able to see most of these pieces here, but the idea is that from those inspirational sketches and inspirational boards that we started off, how far have we come? Have we been able to abstract it enough to ensure that the essence of Latin America still remains in the object? We also work with different materials to attain that. It could be because you want different colors, not just shapes. Everything has a different function. So in this particular project, we worked with stoneware, we worked with glass, we worked with stone, with wood, and you can see the final results here. So yeah, this was our experience working with Othra, and it was a very gratifying one.
But one of the key things that always fascinates us is, not just about abstracting things, but also at the end of it, it's a physical object, right? And uh, I've personally always been so just a little background. Parul studied industrial design and I studied visual communication, and I was always a little disappointed that she gets to work with physical objects and I have to work with the screen. And so, we try and interfere with each other's work as much as possible. And especially with projects like these, there's a lot of focus on how you actually feel the object. So, and that's why, we figured it'll be a good idea to have some of the objects here, because it's nice to look at them on the screen, but when you actually see them and feel them, it's a different thing. And it's the texturality of the objects that is a key part of the experience as well. So, specifically for that, one of the things that we've done in this particular series is we've left parts of the objects unglazed, and so it's the body color itself which is of that. And that provides the color, it's not the glaze. And so you get a very different textural feel when you touch these objects. So yeah, I think we would encourage people to come and see the products, but if there is anything, not anything, let's talk about questions that you have that we can help answer, and it'll be a more interesting conversation. Yes. So, mostly it's, I would say mostly it's stoneware. So most of the ceramic stuff is stoneware. Then we use, I don't see the cursor here, but there is glass. The water glass is in glass. The votive is also in glass. So there is the glass. This one is actually a new material. So while the top is that of glass, the bottom is a material called aerocrete. So it's a synthetic material that is very lightweight, but it gives a certain texture. This is solid wood, which is teak wood, primarily used for serving chips, which is a dry food. And then for this is mild steel that's laser cut and bent, and again the bill holder is softwood. Some of the material, so I think one of the things that we also enjoy is working with different materials and different processes and different vendors. So, Parul's dad comes from a manufacturing setup, and he's always said that, why don't you guys focus on one thing and like develop more things with that material? But, it's the joy of exploring materials that kind of is fun. So, even with this, sorry, this one is stone, which is stern stone. But even in this project, the fact that we work with different materials, different vendors, different processes is part of the joy. And even in stoneware, most of these pieces are more industrially made, but then this particular piece, it's like so Alex calls it a copita thing, which is used for drinking mezcal shots in his restaurant. And we wanted a particular texture for it outside and even a glaze inside. So that one's made in a studio pottery setup of sorts.
I'd love to know how you decide the pricing for your services.
Yeah. So, uh, so we've been doing this for close to 14 years now, and things have evolved over time. But when we do our own products, there is a certain standard thumb rule is whatever is our manufacturing cost, we sell it at 3 times the price. So that involves for some amount of commission and some amount of profit. When it comes to services, there is a slightly different model, because you're already committed to a certain amount of sale that's going to happen. But I would say thumb rules are fine, but every project kind of involves back and forth in terms of how much you want the project and how much joy you're going to get out of working on the project as well, versus how much money you're going to make. So there are some projects we take up. So we've always said, we'll take up work for either two of the things. One is either it is good work or it pays really well. And it's a win-win if you manage to get a project that does both. Sorry, I think to answer your simple question, it's usually like 3 to 4x times the cost of manufacturing is a good enough thing to factor in, because especially when you sell it through retailers, they'll have their own margin that you'll have to pay. So that gives you enough profitability.
I was curious, you'd explain the process for Otra's design where maybe briefly, could I maybe understand the story behind the Americano design wear? Because it was the first time, so I'm assuming it maybe was slightly...
We wanted to represent them, wanted to have very clean lines, because that's how the interior was. So we worked parallelly to how the interiors were conceived as well. So very clean lines. I don't know if you've seen, they have the shape of the branding is organic but smart, right? And so what we stuck with in this one is to have very sharp edges in everything that we did. And in this particular project, there's a lot of focus on functionality in terms of just the shape, size, servability. And so most of these pieces have a small ring, so that when the server is carrying it, you need to ensure that your thumb's not touching the food. They have an open kitchen. They plate in front of you, and all that is visible. So you want to make sure that all that is taken care of. You see the ice cream bowl, we thought we'll do it in stone because they want to serve it cold, so they keep the bowls in the fridge and then they serve the ice cream in it, so it stays cooler longer. So a lot of the products here were in, and the slopes of the pieces, the way Alex wanted to serve or plate his food. I'm not a foodie, but I understand, curry to a whatever, something which is chips, right? So we had a lot of back and forth. What is the consistency of the pasta going to be? Where is it going to accumulate? How is it, and what food is in serving in what container? And what is the portion size? So that determine what is the size of the tables that we are using. What is the cutlery like? Because that determines what your surface finishes are going to be, what your method of production is going to be. So, yeah, cut things short, a lot of Americano pieces were focusing a lot on the way the food was going to be served.
You've been focused mainly on products, which is a pretty tough market in a place like India, where we're still kind of learning about, even having those kinds of things in our homes. What's been the biggest sort of challenge in growing the studio or just maintaining the studio for how many, 14 years, etc.?
Yeah, it is tough. But we were a little smart about it. So we also do services as a part of the studio, and that's kept us floating all these years. But products and designing and making gives you so much joy that you can't give it up. It's like every time we open a sample, I know there are people from my studio here. The joy that we get when the first sample comes, or the disappointment on our face, it's those emotions that we go through while making things. That far outreaches all the service side of work that we've been doing to hold this studio together. And Indian market is waking up. So we've had good responsiveness in the last 4 years, I would say. Prior to that, it was a challenge just to educate, to help people understand, yes, these are small batch production. I'm not competing with products that are sourced, and that we are thinking of things afresh, we are making them afresh, we are working with artisans. That wasn't an easy task. It's changing now. So we see a lot of people adapt to, I think, new things. The market's waking up. They understand why my pieces cost the way they do, and but we're happy about that.
But I think one of the things that Parul always tells people, that product design is so much more harder than visual design, because you have to deal with physics. Like visual design, you can create whatever, and that's your final product. Not to trivialize it, but that's part of the joy as well, right? So one of the greatest joys that we derive in product design is something that didn't exist in this world. You're thinking about it, you're sketching it, and it finally comes to life, and you can hold it and feel it, right? And I think that's what keeps us going. In terms of running the studio, we've always known that product design is a little bit more trickier to sustain financially, and so we've always supported it through services in graphic design, in UI UX design, and more recently we also had a side venture where we kind of were running an IT company, which was a completely different thing. But you do these things, and because that allows you to do other things that you enjoy doing as well. So I think I would say, for anybody who wants to do product design, just keep an eye out on the finances on one side to make sure that you're able to continue to do product design, right? Because it is challenging, and unless you reach a certain scale by itself, it is a little difficult to be self-sustaining.